class, how's it going? For my final project, I decided to research Asian Americans and how they migrated from either China or Japan over to America. So I decided that I wanted to research Asian Americans specifically because I've always held an interest in this culture since I was young. I was always super into anime and even attempted at one point to try to learn Japanese, a failed attempt, but an attempt nonetheless. So here's some things that I found out. Asian Americans started migrating to the Americas as early as the 1500s. Unfortunately, during that period of time, they were mostly being brought over to fill in slave inventory in areas where African American slaves weren't commonly found. But the first major rush of Chinese immigrants happened in the year 1848. If you remember from your history books, that's when the first gold rush started. So a lot of immigrants were coming to America from all over the world to kind of get a piece of the American dream. And the idea was that during the gold rush, they would get super wealthy and be able to either go back to China or Japan as a mogul, as a very rich person, and have money to support their families for the rest of their lives. So by that time, there was already an established shipping route from China to America because of trading routes in general at the time. And so it was really easy for that first wave of Chinese immigrants to come over. Now during this time, the gender crisis in China was pretty much in full throttle. It has gone back centuries in these cultures that having a son was looked at as like a great honor, whereas having a daughter was kind of looked at as a waste. So many men who had immigrated to the Americas with the intent of finding jobs and making money to send back to their families, when it came time for them to finally bring their families over, they typically left their daughters behind because the idea was that their sons could come over, work, and make more money for the family, whereas the daughters weren't as strong, so they couldn't work as hard. So unfortunately, a lot of daughters and wives were left behind during this time period. But there wasn't only discrimination when it came to migration and the gender crisis. Like I said earlier, having a daughter was kind of looked at as a waste because eventually when the daughter would be married off, she would then join her husband's family. Whereas over here, when two people get married, it's kind of just the conjoining of two families. But in this culture, the daughter just joins the husband's family. And because of that, the daughter could not make money for the family, so it was just kind of seen as a waste. Unfortunately, this led to a huge growth in infanticide and illegal abortions. So much so that the government had to get involved and set a standard of laws for families. If you have a first child and that child is a son, you are no longer allowed to procreate afterward. If you are a very wealthy family and your first child is a daughter, you can try again one more time for a son. If both parents were only children, then you could have more than one child. All right, the reason why a lot of Asian Americans wanted to migrate to the United States was so that they could put their education to use. There's a stereotype among Asian Americans that they are very, very smart, and this is probably actually true. They are very educated. 61% of immigrants from China and Japan have a bachelor's degree. So they came over to America in search of better job opportunities to put their education to use. They also came over for the freedom to express their political opinions, freedom to practice their religion, and for overall better working conditions. Now, 19% of Asian Americans have said that they have experienced some kind of discrimination while being in America. I have actually witnessed firsthand this happening when I was working a job at Chipotle one of my Asian American friends, her name is Chelsea, was making rice for the front line, and a customer commented how he had come to the place for Mexican rice, not nasty Asian rice. And that was the first time I had really experienced, seen anybody discriminate against her because of her culture and the way that she looks. So that was a really wow, shocking moment for me, and it actually was for her too, but prior to that she hadn't really had a problem with it. The sources for this video come from NPR.com, a book written by Erica Lee called Making of Asia America, livescience.org, and theguardian.com, and also the Pew Research Center. I hope that you guys enjoyed my presentation. I hope that you enjoyed the audience of 3 friends behind me, and I hope that I did not bore them totally to death during this. I had a lot of fun in this class this year with you guys, and I wish you guys the best of luck in the future.